Welcome to another segment of the Digital Tribe Virtual Summit on this Social Media Day weekend 2019. Today on this segment, I bring you a special guest straight from Chicago, my friend, the founder and CEO of Tridence, a digital marketing agency with offices in Ponte Vedra and, of course, Chicago, David Vega. How's it going, David?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Danny. It's nice to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, David and I recently were involved in a business expo there in Chicago. We had a lot of fun. I wasn't able to stay there longer, David, but, thank you so much for showing me a good time.
Yes, we had a great time, especially talking about automation with Messenger, kind of the humanizing our brands and storytelling and using the proper methods. And
That's right.
It was a great expo that we had.
Yes, yes. Today we're going to talk about a different topic, though, but it intrigues me how the title that you've picked here is Digital Noise Breakthrough, Humanizing Your Brand and Storytelling Through Content Distribution. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, basically, it sort of goes back into a couple of years, which I've been discussing on human branding, human storytelling, sort of, getting away from so much being technical, coming back into more of a universal theme of, human interaction. What is the value that you're offering? How can you offer that? You can use different steps. You can use different mechanisms. And a lot of it blends into a modern business growth process that's not only for business owners, but for brand influencers as well. And that's kind of geared towards what I consider sort of a spirituality standpoint, a technology standpoint, and a sales overview standpoint, but then wrapping everything into more of digital relationships within marketing, which technically is called humanizing your brands, which seems to be the theme now that a lot of people sort of jumped on board lately within the last, 8 to 9 months. So that's interesting in how that sort of transpired and is now being, reused as a topic and getting back to human nature.
Now, in this space where things are changing so rapidly and there's new apps where we can communicate with each other and new devices and new features inside of these apps, right? That's almost weekly how, all these major networks come up with new ways of having you engaged and, in these devices, right? In this era of ever-changing technology and means of communicating, there's one thing that doesn't change, however, since the beginning of times, and that's storytelling, right? You and your agency have been able to rack up some awards, because you've been able to capture brands' message through storytelling. Why don't you tell us how that's so important?
Well, it's basically the human element. We're emotional people. We need to connect. It used back in the day, it was a handshake and networking. Now since we drifted so much online and digital, we sort of lost that interaction, sort of lost that human connection. So I think the elements now that we need to be put in place is to bring back that human element on the brands that you're offering, the services that you're providing, and even your individual communication that you're attending. And based on all that is like, what formats or what story formatting, or still storytelling formats can you use? And I sort of break this down to sort of like a 7 type of features and formats that you can use. And really the first one would be like conquering the monsters, what I call it. And that's basically, it's like the hero that goes on a journey, it's something that you need to defeat an entity or a person, a brand. So that all goes into conquering, how you're going to conquer it, who you have to conquer, and that journey. So that's one sort of a storytelling mechanism you can provide. Another one in which I call is the rags to riches, which is the classic story of the American dream. One day this person started penniless and now it's a billionaire on the hill. You can encapsulate a lot of storytelling through that mechanism to offer a storyline so which your customers or users or individuals can understand and then try to relate, and in the interim start being engaged into what product and services you're offering. Another one would be like a quest. Uh, it's sort of what obstacles and what hardships and what you had to overcome. It could be a main character, it could be an entourage, it could be a set. Basically, you're out to a mission from a beginning to an end, and then you just follow that storyline, engage with the user, start putting those mechanisms out there, and then that attracts sort of that human brand level of who you are, who the company is, you as an individual, the company's brand as an individual, and then how to relate that within the services and products that you have to offer. And I do have another one I like to call the voyage and return. And it sort of touches on a nerve with those that have traveled, from home. Maybe that can offer some sort of emotional release that's sort of therapeutic within themselves, but yet offer a themed storyline in which other individuals can relate. And then that's where you get that engagement and you get that flow of customers. So, you know what? I had that same issue, and kudos for that person. I want to become that person, and and those steps in the process. So these are some of the elements. You can use tragedy. That's one of the toughest ones to use in marketing because it kind of deals with the fatal character flaw within an individual. So you have to bring that weakness within yourself to come forward, but that is done in a variety of methods online in which we use as products. One with Iron Energy with Mike Tyson. There's a few other products I really can't mention right now that we're working on, but you can bring certain amount of tragedy within a character and be able to add a storyline for an individual product and services. And then, of course, one of the last ones would be comedy. It's always, every funny story could be a comedy. You can start creating confusions among characters, and then a resolution for an issue that possibly came about. And then lastly, it would be a rebirth effect as a story telling mechanism.
Like a comeback story?
The rebirth? Or you're saying the comedy?
The rebirth, like a comeback story, like the prodigy, the prodigy son stories, that sort of.
Yes, yeah, that's what we're classed like a rebirth. You're at your lowest point, you make a miraculous recovery, and then based on that recovery, you can transition into wherever this process or road is, the path that you've gone through, and then you can effectively lay that out, and then you can put these little individual storylines, and I'm sure you can put videos, which is very highly recommended nowadays to sync things in, but content with the video through images, real live storytelling, all those mechanisms now can for these 7 sort of what I call, what I consider, the 7 storytelling mechanisms, of which I use a lot, and I just call them the 7 lots of storytelling. Conquering the monster, voyage and return, rags to riches, tragedy, rebirth, the quest, and comedy. And within those elements, you have to find your common niche that you want, that works for you, and within your company and with your organization, and then go from that. One of the problems I see, especially with young entrepreneurs, small business owners, is that they try to use each channel, social media channel, or they try to use each product, and they blanket that into all these social media networks and using one sort of common theme. And that's really the mistake. And that's where I think even agencies sometimes get in trouble And what really needs to be done, if anything else that you want to get out of this, is that every channel or every service or product that you use has to be a different way to market that product or service. There's never two of the same. And you have to, you have a foundation and follow the principles of, okay, I want us to, go to this Facebook, I want to use Instagram, I want to try to do this storytelling or this mechanisms, but the way to actually deliver that mechanism should never be the same to the other. Everything is always unique and should be different, and that's how you capture, the audience, how to engage within the audience, and try to get them to, be in the same tune of what you're trying to offer.
I love it. And, I tell some of the brands that I work with, to also create content around 6 types of emotions, right? So I like how you were able to break this down, with your 7 elements of storytelling, right? Each
Yes.
and every, I was taking notes as you were going along, because this is new to me and this is golden. So, each and every one of these scenarios has its unique way of triggering emotion within the reader or within the viewer, right? As you were numbering these elements, I was immediately running through ideas on how I can, share not just my story, but, other brands' stories through these 7 elements, conquering the monster, right? The rag to riches, right? That makes people feel, if he can do it or if she can do it, I can do it too, right? It instigates, possibility, and the Voyager returns, right? The prodigy son story, that the comeback story, right?
Right.
Ranker.
And you'll see a lot of those stories coming in from a nonprofit sector, because a lot of them are a charitable or a mission-oriented service provider, and what's that story? So
Yeah.
a lot of times you'll have the tragedy portion of it, or
Yeah.
the rags to riches portion,
Yeah.
to help the fundraising efforts or development efforts.
Yes. I see how some of these influencers, these are household names, have used and have milked some of these stories. They're real stories, but they continue to tell that story of rags to riches, or, addiction to recovery, or, maybe a defeat to success, in such a way that is captivating, right? Grant Cardone, his early years, he had that show called The Comeback King, right? And they show a little bit of his story and how now he's, applying his skills in sales to, to turn businesses around, like gyms. And that's how he started his YouTube following before the Grant rant that he used to do. And now, he's, billion-dollar brand. So, yes. So, quick tip, David, because, it's a lot of rhetoric out there, a lot of, so-called coaches and such that are saying that SEO is dead. And here we are talking about storytelling through content distribution, right? And we all know that content is king, but is really the distribution of content that is queen, just like in a match of chess, right? You are after the king, but it's really the queen who has the most power in the board, right? So can you tell us a little bit about how SEO is still, alive and kicking?
Oh, SEO is still, it's alive and well.
Yeah.
In fact, the most successful influencers or brands that you see out there, agencies and products, has a high SEO element that's embraced within your elements of your marketing scheme that you're trying to do. For instance, evergreen content that's out there that you should be posting every day. and this is your generic content. And then what you do is that the next post on the same day would be your more of a unique content that's tailored to an individual trait that you have to offer. And the third then will be on top of that, but some sort of video element, but everything and all is keyed in the back end to capture the SEO, if you want to call it the algorithm, the AI intelligence content, because what's really driving your product and services besides the shareable content is the searchable content. And really the next wave on top of all this that we're already been working out with select clients is the voice SEO. Because obviously, you have Alexa, you have Google, you have your Google Homes, you have all this, you're now talking into it. So the understanding is, how do I get my product to be listed first? Well, you have to have some SEO programming within the content in itself, so so the voice AI mechanisms will be able to capture those content, and then you'll be lifted in the top. So SEO is alive and well. There are some ways whereas video elements rank higher in certain elements, but it's still in conjunction with your standard content with blogging, how you are distributing your content overall, the frequencies, and really the key elements to the content distribution per se is the time of day. And you really need to understand, or a person really needs to understand, is what time of day is your company, your products that you're listing out is in relation to the audience that are engaging. You need to start keeping a track of that. And in general, what are the times worldwide are people going into from different time zones? Sure. And you can grab a few of that within like the Facebooks and things, they give you some of that, but a lot of it has to do internally also with your own content. And then the way to target market everything for SEOs from content distribution is driven from that.
Interesting. You mentioned all these tips. I'm not so far off track. It makes me feel like there's some things that I'm doing right, and there are some things that I'm doing right, but maybe not frequent enough, right? The way you're dissecting these, 7 elements, can probably match well with one of the things that that is, not only my standard for posting content, but also what I suggest other brands to do. And that is, what I mentioned earlier, which was using the 6 emotions, right? And, we know that when Facebook first came about, there was only one emotion, right? You can only like a Facebook post or a photo, right? Now there are 6 emotions, right? There is love, which is really not love. You just like it a little bit more, right? There's the ha-ha, right? The emotion that makes you laugh. Then there's the content that makes you wow, and the one that's sad, and the one that's angry, right? So it's almost as Facebook is also applying these emotional triggers to keep us coming back, right? As loyal customers of their product, right? Because every time now they have 6 more or 5 more emotions with us humans to play with, right? So whenever we post something, we are eager to try to come back and find out how many people, liked our post or loved my dog's pictures, etc., right? So, it goes hand in hand when we're talking about humanizing a brand, right? In this era of automation and tools and systems, there's still a need for us to connect as brands with the other person on the other side of this device, which is another human being, right? With emotions and, fears and, ambition, etc. Now, you've taking a dive into coaching, and you even wrote a book. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's humanizing your brand. It's still right here, basically, but it's humanizing your brand and be successful, in which I kind of subtitled as a modern business growth playbook. This was sort of written last year. It was actually released beginning of this year, and I wanted to kind of step on a little bit of entrepreneurship, startups, and small business owners in general. Besides sort of the concept of humanizing brand, I go into certain elements within the book. Uh, a lot of the rest of the chapters of what I try to convey is creating a foundation. There's so many new businesses now or new entrepreneurship that they just go and they jump in. They try to use the latest technologies. They'll use the stories, but yet they're not understanding business foundational principles. You still need a foundation. How are you going to operate your business, the way to operate your business, and then a breakdown to do that. And so that's how the Humanizing Brand Be Successful book came about. And it's going to sort of be a first edition of a few more that I think that I'm going to break that out in a little bit more detail from these chapters. And that sort of transitions into my coaching aspect, in which I'm launching soon, based on a digital mind blueprint, and another modern business growth process, and that deals with three sort of main characters with humanizing brands as the theme, and that starts with spirituality as your overview. When you grow, business grows, so you really have to have a spiritual growth, the development and manifesting within you to really become successful and understand where you want to go and how to lead others if you have multiple employees. And then the second phase that I do is the technology, which we can discuss all the latest technologies, how to use the technologies, what's best to leverage, this tech to make it work for you. Third is general sales, how to approach the new digital sales mechanism now that we have that's not traditional. Learning how to communicate that in an effective way. And, that's basically what I call from humanizing brand. And I don't know if you can say it, but that's sort of the quick, blueprint of what I have developed and that I'm also teaching.
Now, how do people get a hand on that blueprint and on your book?
Well, it's actually in the book, that blueprint. That is in the book. But what I can do is that I can have a back end link to it if people would like to have that. I have no problem to share that, and I'll definitely check the links at the end of this seminar, and I think I can add that to that link, and people can click it and download it and be able to use it if need be.
Sounds good. Now, talking about content and content distribution, there's a platform that helps you do this, and I certainly took a sneak peek at this platform when I was in Chicago in your office, and it blew my mind. I've seen other platforms, but I liked what you have. Why don't you share a little bit about that platform that you have for agencies and content creation distribution?
Let me go into. Right. Well, there's tons of social media management platforms that are out there. You have large scales and you have smaller scales. This is sort of what I consider a smaller version, a light version of content management distribution. And I'm not sure, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so basically the platform in itself is an overview, and we have this is very simple, it's very easy to use. We just launched it through a select partnership with individuals, and great feedback. And basically you create your projects, your social media calendars, and it's all incorporated into social accounts, where is derived from the dashboard in itself. So these are the current connections that we do. You add in all your information and all this stuff here. But the beauty of this is really the calendar perspective. And when you go into the project management, as you can see here, is we have category items, and these are all drawn out 30 days in advance. We create this content already for you. And we have what's called the evergreen content. Basically, you select a topic and you just put it right into the calendar. If you notice, you have these different times. This is what we consider our AI version. It actively determines how your users are interacting within your social media channels that you add compared to the channels of the social media channels that you are delivering. And it compiles an AI version to submit the best time of high user interaction that's going to happen. And this is the schedule that comes out of it automatically for you. So for instance, how would you create something like this, or what are the categories? Well, we can create any category for any industry. You just basically, just no charge that real quick we'll make for you, and we can do a 30, 60, 95 piece event, 3 months, 6 months, however you want it, longevity. It's very simple. If you look at just this web design, you can see the post. The check mark was already done. And it automatically has the text with you, the images. It's already made for you as content. And I can show you based on our demo here as a project 3. Whereas right now, for instance, there's nothing on the calendar. You have nothing going on in your social media channel. Usually you have to create content, you have to create your images, you have to figure out what you want to say to alleviate some time that we have. And this is it's all about time. We all have a certain amount of time in the day. We can't create unless we have 3, 4 clients. How am I going to create that? Well, yeah. We already created the content per niche already for you. You just go ahead and select it. And then on top of that, it automatically sends an email to your client or to whoever that is in the calendar permissions, and it requests them to review the content and approve it automatically, or they can just click it and everything is approved. So that way you don't have to have this interlog, the dialogue, and that's a little different between a lot of these other large social media management, because you can have everything, it's all vetted in there, but then you still have to go into what's approved and what's not approved, and that alleviates a lot of time from the back end, and it's a wonderful tool. Like for instance, let's just say I need to create something real fast here just to start off with my client. I just go in here and say I want to add a template content. Look at that. See down here? This is the next 3 days. Automatically taking the times of the best from the AI versions, from the platforms, and it's already made up in here. So basically, let's just say, and I'm just taking it as a social media. Obviously, if you're a chiropractor or if you're a banker, these will be tailored to those specific posts. But if you click on here, you can actually see the post already that's coming up. In fact, this was already one. Automatically already has the content for you. And then from here, if you want to make an edit, the client or yourself can always re-edit the content that's already there, still saving you time. Yeah. You can just remove some, add some, and you can tell it's all in a WYSIWYG. You can use hashtags that we automatically set in. That's where you can add in all your quick action hashtag code and then the short code. And that could be your name, company, website, address, everything that's already listed in the profile in itself. So like I said, see how it's boom. Then there's your schedule. And look, what did that take? 3 seconds? We just pulled into from the content of what we have available, and then which we also create. And then this would be your usernames. So it's and there's so much more, but obviously this is not compared to this, but it's I'll just show you real quick what we have already developed for these clients, for the clients of ours, is so if you notice, if you just logged in as Danny, I am I'm a bankruptcy lawyer person, or you have a client that needs a bankruptcy lawyer, you need to start adding stuff. Well, the first base is what you would do. You subscribe and then boom, you add in our content. And this would be your 30-day content to start off with. And if you notice, it's already filled out. It's like the content ones. These are your day 1, 2, 3. You go down. See how it's already set up. It's already been created for you. You just click on your edit if you want to edit the information, the picture if you want. You can add in additional. But this is meant to be, like I said, evergreen. So this is a starting point. Saves you time, and then what you do is you create one additional post on top of it that's unique for your client, unique to what that is, and then you also create one for video. So you can have 3 of them at a time or 5 of them time in the day. It just depends on how often you want to have your schedule, and that all goes back into your your content scheduling purposes on this. And let me see, let me go with the these are test ones. And if you notice, those will be schedules on here. So we have here, every Monday, we'll be sending out a Monday type of offer. Happy Monday. We have an end of day quote in the quote of the day. So you can send those out, which will be here in all different color coded. And then you can see that post as it comes out each one. So these are already done in those niches. So all you do, let's say we are actually on the 25th. Okay, let's say there's one that already went, and that was at 12:30. Let's say, you know what, I want to do a quote of the day later on. All you do is come over here to your category items. You just swap it right in there.
Wow.
Boom. Done. Look at that. And then if the time doesn't coincide, I mean, you can then just go ahead and you can edit it right in there. Obviously, this is a test, but you just go in there and edit the time. Same thing here. If you want to add in more, let's say I want to go ahead and add in some SEO verbiage besides my marketing on Thursday. Boom, there it is. And on this is the content that's going to be shown that's coming up. And then this is already made out to you. It's already, some will have your website links into it. Some will be just links in general or a combination of both. And then you can see it on each of the channels and how it will. And that's sort of what's different from the everyday SMM tools that are robust. I mean, that's what we use a lot of the larger agencies. But this is geared a lot for small business owners, small projects, 10, 15, that you have to develop original content that you need to develop. We're doing that for you, and it's already let out each month. New content and those industry niches are done. And if you need something beyond that, then you contact us within the program, and then we'll make additional niche content for you if we don't have it in the application.
Wow, that is mind-blowing.
And just for this, I was talking, and as a service provider that that we do with them, it's called Social Options, our platform, is that I'll be willing to have a very special one in a lifetime here for Digital Summit members is $395. It'll be unlimited, one-time charge just to get in the platform beyond the content delivery in itself. And I'll be happy to do this reduced discount. Right now, it's $50 for some of our major players that already been using this, and down to $795 is what some of our small business owners and influencers and small agencies are using that. But so that's something that people are interested in this. Definitely give me a call, a straight shout out. I'll even put a link on this as well at the end of this, that you'll get an email, and if you're interested, it'll go right to a form. And then you can contact me there if you want to have a more in-depth overview of the product, because what I just showed you is very limited of what this is. Actually a robust, but it's just time constraint. I can't get into it all right this time.
Yes.
So yes, so that is that is sort of our sort of trick of, not really a trick, but this is how we get around to be able to spend more time with us. Instead of being 10 hours and trying to create 50 different pieces.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, Jenny, she's been creating content and she's been looking for something like this. In fact, I'm going to give her a sneak peek at this platform. She's going to love it. Real quick in closing. So is this a myth or is this a fact? When you schedule content using third-party tools, do some social media networks slap you in the wrist for that, or is that totally bogus?
What I can only go by the data of what we use with our network, and we do thousands of posts, and every day with clients up for a month, and we don't see any major difference or relevance in that, to be honest with you. Okay. I've read. And I've even done some testing and A/B testing just to see in our own dummy accounts to see what the success rate, non-success rate. Now there is a hindrance when you are using third-party platforms if you occasionally use third links outside the system. You will get penalized for that, just because it's like anything else. You have people to utilize your platform, maintain within your platform to keep those ad revenues going. I mean, that's just common sense. So the whole idea here is what you need to be doing is monetizing the elements of how you are conveying those links. It shouldn't be every link or every post you're doing to be off the platform. Some needs to be within it, some needs to be off, some then needs to be some video integration. So again, it's all about the distribution within your sales channels of what you're trying to provide and convey, so you get the best audience engagement as you possibly can.
Gotcha. So I just wanted to say thank you, David, for your involvement with the Digital Tribe Virtual Summit. And, your agency, just wanted to shout out Tridence and your team. David Vega is highly sought after, for the past 20 years. He's the founder, CEO of Tridence, an agency with offices in Chicago and here in Northeast Florida. He's been racking up some awards there, top 5 web agency and top 15 digital marketing agency by the Jacksonville Business Journal. He's been helping entrepreneurs, brands, and organizations create growth by building relationships through digital marketing, humanizing their brands. And besides his extensive executive leadership experience mixed with national brand creation, he works with some really cool brands that we are not allowed to mention. But you'll probably...
I may come back for you. I don't know.
Yes. You'll definitely recognize these brands.
The problem when you start dealing with a large accounts and
yes.
7 or 8 figures is that the NDAs are very heavily inundated to everything you're doing. So
yeah, let's just say that some brands who are looking to tap into the ever-growing Latino buying power are knocking on the door.
Yes.
Yes. And he has published a new book called Humanizing Your Brand and Be Successful. You can find it on a link here on this platform. And yes, I actually have a copy of that book. Thank you so much for that gift when I was there in Chicago at your offices. So this is a wrap. Just wanted to say thanks to all of our sponsors, the National Institute for Social Media, Agora Pulse, Fisher Design, and Bluehorn Media Buying Software. Thank you, David, for your participation on this virtual summit. Looking forward to continuing to do business with you and projects like these for the love of social.
And if everyone have any additional questions outside of that, I'd be happy to answer.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I'll check you in the next video, and be sure to check everybody else's session, go.digitaltribesummit.com. See you soon.